Hey guys, welcome back. And in this video, we'll be implementing authentication and we're looking at concepts of layouts in NextJS. If you remember, we passed in null values to our client ID and client secret keys in our GitHub provider in our auth options object, which is necessary to configure authentication in our application. So what we're going to do right now is going to generate our client ID and our client secret from GitHub and then load them into the GitHub ID and GitHub secret environment variables and then load them into our NextAuth file. Let's get straight into it. So how do we generate this client ID and client secret? It's really simple. You go to GitHub, click on your account icon and click on settings. Then you scroll down and click on developer settings and you have three options on your sidebar: GitHub apps, OAuth apps, and personal access tokens. In our case here, we are interested in the second one, which is OAuth apps. And we click on register a new application. And you're going to give it an application name. So in our case, Real Ranger clone. Sorry, I'm going to work on my capitalization there. Real Ranger clone, and our homepage URL is going to be the URL of our server. So you're going to copy this and paste it in here. And application description. So this is optional, but we're going to fill it out. We're going to say a movie management app, and our authorization callback URL. So this is going to be necessary, where the there's going to be an exchange in going to be an exchange of tokens. So yeah, let's get that done. So in our case here, we're going to follow a convention. The NextAuth library recommends for authentication. So in here, we're going to say HTTP localhost 3000 /API /auth / callback and /GitHub. So here, this is the the URL for a server. Then the /API is the API endpoint, remember, and then authentication, and then we have the callback endpoint and the GitHub provider. This is going to be our authorization callback URL, and that's all we need to fill out. So I'm going to click on our register application. And you can see here it says application created successfully, and it says premise learning of this application. Great. So now we can see we have our client ID, which we have this unique key here, alphanumeric key, and then we have this client secret, which we don't have any yet. But for now, let's just copy our client ID and head back to our env file and just replace this with our client ID. Make it a string, of course. The next is our client secret. And remember, this is sensitive information. In my case here, I won't be deploying this application, so I'm good. But make sure you do not expose these keys. So I'm going to click on create a new client secret, and you can see it's going to ask for my password. I'm going to fill in my password in here, for security. And you can see now I have my client secret. And remember, once you copy this, you'll be able to see it again. Note that. So I've copied my client secret. So I'm going to head back to my environment variable and clear this out here and paste the string and save. Now I'm good to go. And I think that's all we need. And if you want to make any other edits, of course, you can come back in here and, change your edits. When we deploy our application, you see that we would, change this URL and authorization callback URL to the domain name which holds, our deployed application. So just note that this information we have, it can always be edited. But what can be edited is your client secret and your client ID. Your client secret, if you lose it, you just delete it and, generate a new one. So yeah, that's that. So now we've saved this. Okay, we've saved this now, and we're gonna head back to NextAuth. I'm gonna call this in. So we're gonna say process.env. And of course we're gonna pull it in from here. GitHub ID. Move back here and paste it. And for client secret, process.env. And head back to environment variables and the variable name. That's what we need. And we paste it right here. That's it. We've gotten our authentication ready. Now we're going to look at how we're going to implement it. Okay, so great. Before we implement authentication, let's get our UI ready. So we could, look at the way authentication is going to work. So what we're going to do, we're going to, just quickly, have a screen here that welcomes users to create an account, and another screen that's going to display if that user has created an account and has been authenticated. So we're going to create a folder here. Close this up. We're going to create a folder called components. Components, and you're going to create two components. You're going to call one authenticated screen.js. Of course, if you're familiar with React, this is very, very, very straightforward. So we're gonna create a React functional component. So I'm gonna use the shortcut RFCE, and this is gotten from the React snippet extension, which I'll provide a link in the description. So RFCE, you can see we've created a functional React component, and it's just going to render authenticated screen. I'm going to save it, and that's all we need. And I'm going to create another one called unauthenticated screen. Unauthenticated screen. And of course, we're on the RFCE command, and we have a component called unauthenticated screen. So we're gonna render it into our index page. Remember, in NextJS, your home page, or the root of the home page is the index. So this is it right here. We have index, and we're gonna clear this H1 out, and we're gonna render authenticated screen. And you can see it here. I've imported it, and it's going to be a self-closing tag because it doesn't have children. And if you head in here, you can see now we have authenticated screen be displayed. If you clear that out and run on authenticated screen, you can see it renders on authenticated screen. So for now, I want to deal with authenticated screen. So I have this back here. Let's build out authenticated screen, and we're going to use Mantine. So let's look at the beauty of Mantine to quickly build, nice looking screens. So, So we're going to go to authenticated screen, and we're going to need a couple of components. So we're going to need a center component to, center items in our screen. We're going to need some utility components that are going to help us, work on the layouts, like a flex layout, and some text in the middle and a button. So let's do that. So go to Mantine, and we have this component called center. And what does center do? Center centers content vertically and horizontally. So look at an example here. You can see you just import the center component from Mantine core, and you set in the required props, the heights, and the margin, and the max width, as you can see, and then whatever you put in here is gonna center it around it. So let's do that. So it's gonna be the root layout, not layout, but the main component that everything's gonna fall under. Okay, so back in authenticated screen, we're gonna clear this div, and we're gonna return center from Mantine. And now whatever we're gonna pass in the body or in as a child to the center, it's gonna center the content we're gonna pass in here horizontally and vertically. So we're gonna need something that aligns or renders its children in a horizontal format, and that is a component called stack. So in a vertical flex container. So you can see here it says compose elements and components in a vertical flex container. As you can see here, whatever you pass in stack, it's gonna render them and align them in a vertical container. And so please in your free time, check out Mantine, check out the components so you can get much more familiar with it. So in here, I'm going to, bring in stock. After the capital letter, stack, and I'm going to pass in the children. If I'm going to pass in here, it's going to, render them in a vertical format of container rather. So we're going to need, a text that, that welcomes people, like, hey, welcome to Rearranger, right? So in this case, we have, a component called, text. And text, displays text and links with your theme styles. And, so we're going to, import text from Mantine core, and I'm just gonna say hello to Real Ranger. Let me work on the capitalization of the R. Real Ranger. So if I go to our application here, you can see, of course, it's centered our application, and it's rendering this say hello in a vertical container, but we can't see that yet because we just have one child. So we're going to work on that soon. And okay, one thing to note, you're going to change this theme. We want this theme to be a dark theme. So how do you implement dark theme? It's pretty easy with Mantine. So you just go back to your root application, and remember we have this with global styles props and with normalized CSS. So you can also pass in a prop here called theme. And I think we can give it color scheme and give it dark and save. Great. You can close this file now. And if you come back, you can see that we have a dark theme. And of course, you could make it dynamic where you have a button that can, switch it. But my own personal preference, I just want this application to be, to be dark. So you could go back, you could use your use states and create a switch button that, can help you alternate the color schemes. But in my own case, I want the default display to be dark, and you can note that as like an assignment or as a side improvement to the application after deploying. You could do something like I improve this project by making the user decide if they want to use a light theme or a dark theme. So yeah, we're back using our we are back using our dark theme, and let's go back to bringing out our authenticator screen. Okay, so after saying welcome or saying hello to Rearranger, we want to display another text that that describes what Rearranger does. So let's do that. So we're gonna move back here, and gonna be another text. Okay, and we're gonna say let's see, we're gonna say Rearranger. Oops, mixing up the capital letters. So we're going to say Rearranger is a... Okay, let's give it a quick description. So Rearranger is the ultimate movie management app with a user-friendly interface, easily search for movies. A comma is supposed to be here, and then find basic information on them and add them to your watch list, and bam, we're good to go. So let's quickly check if that's worked. As you can see here, it's aligning them in the virtual container. Okay, so we want this this is too wide in my opinion. We want it to shrink further, so we're going to work on that soon. But let's quickly render something else. We want to render a button, where users can click on it and click on it to, of course, to visit the dashboard. And mind you, this is the authenticated screen. This is a screen that's going to appear when users are authenticated. So the button you're going to display is a button that says, okay, head to your dashboard, right? Not the one to sign in, please. You should note the I want you to be clear on the difference. So you're gonna render a button. I want to use a component called we have the button component. Of course, we've used that when we're testing the Mantine UI library. We're gonna have something called group. So let's look at the group components in Mantine. Just come to a search bar and search for group. And it says compose elements and components in a horizontal flex. So it's the opposite of the stack utility component. So head back in here, and I'm gonna import group, and I'm then gonna render the button, and I'm gonna say dashboard, okay, and group. So there's a property in group of the position of center. Let's look at what it does. Let's see if you can have that. So if you click in center, of course, you can see it centers it, to the center of the page. So we're going to do that. Let's just save this, okay, and see how it looks. So in here, it says button is not defined. So we did not import button. So we're going to make sure we import button. And in my case, I've imported it. And you can see here, it says hello to Rearranger. And you can see it's not looking as good as expected. It doesn't look like our finished product. And so let's center it. So we're gonna say group and pass in the position prop, and it's gonna be center. Like I see now, our button has been centered. What's next is the text. So now our text is gonna be pretty simple. Mantine provides the prop, the TA prop, to the text component, which stands for text align. So you want to say TA, and I'm gonna say I'm gonna say center, and pass the same thing in here to TA and passing center. If I head back now, you can see it has been centered, but of course, it's not still aligned in the center of the page. So we're going to move to our center component at the top. I'm going to pass in a custom styling ourselves. So to implement your own styling in Mantine, you could, there are different ways. You could define it up before the components, or you could just write it inline. So in our case, we are quickly learning NextJS and not learning how to style components. So we're just going to quickly write an inline style. So we're going to say style. I'm going to be an object and another object, of course, in here, and then we'll write the CSS property. So in our case, we're looking at height, and the height is going to be, let's say, 100 viewport height. And if you come back here, you can see it's working. It says say hello to Rearranger. Rearranger is the ultimate movie management app, and you can see it's working, right? But to say something else, it's too wide. I don't like how wide it is. So there's a component in Mantine UI called container. And container, it's the most basic layout element. It centers the content horizontally and adds horizontal padding from the theme. So as you can see here, it adds a bit of padding, and that's all we need. So we're gonna come right after the center components, and we're gonna import container. I'm gonna just cut that closing tag and put it in the appropriate place. It's going to be here, and I'm going to save. I'll head back. You can see right now our application looks much more better. Say hello to Rearranger. Rearranger is the ultimate movie management app, and you can see there's still a bit of difference in our text. This doesn't look like a heading at all, so let's make it look different. Okay, so we're gonna head back here, and I'm gonna pass in some properties. So first of all, we'll give the font size. We're gonna give it a bigger font size and make it bolder. So we're gonna pass in the props for that, for the font size. For Mantine provides this prop called FZ, and we're gonna say extra large. Okay, and to make it bolder, we have font weight, which is FW, and we're gonna say bolder. Okay, I'm gonna save it. If we head back here, you can see it's a bit bigger than the other or the text. So we're gonna want to work specially with rearranger. And if you're familiar with HTML, if you want to separate an inline text, you have to use a span tag. So that can also be done here. And Mantine UI kind of makes it straightforward. So we're gonna wrap this one in here. Oops, sorry. We're gonna wrap this here. The text we want to focus on with another text. Oops, with another text component. I'm going to cut this closing tag and move it in here. Okay. And how do we make it span? We're going to just say pass in the component prop and say span. So it's going to be rendered as a span tag and give it a variant of gradient. So we want this gradient component to give us make the text a different color. Okay, let's give an example. If you go to Mantine's homepage, you can see this fully featured text here, this precise text here that's highlighted is a gradient color. I think it's a combination of blue and cyan. So that's what I want to achieve too. So that's why we have these variants here called gradient. And we're gonna pass in gradient as a property, and they're gonna be an object. So we have this here. And what we're going to pass in is keys. We're going to pass in the from key. So the from key is going to be the initial color value. New gradient is moving from one color value to another color value. So the initial color value in our case here is going to be cyan. Pass in cyan. And the second key is going to be toe. And we're going to pass in blue. And if we head back, you could see say hello to rearranger. And if you look at rearranger, it's moving from cyan to blue, which is nice. And okay, I think we're good to go. And one more thing, we want to add an icon to our dashboard button. And let's work more on the button. So we're gonna pass in some properties to it, and we're gonna add some properties to it, and we're gonna give it a size. I'm going to give it a size of MD of medium button size. I'm going to give it a variant of gradients too. Oops, I'm going to make it gradients too, okay? So to make it look different in gradients, and we're going to pass in the gradients property. And remember, it's going to be an object just like the one we did for text. And this is going to move from blue to cyan and not like the previous one, which was from cyan to blue. It's going to be blue, and we're going to have the toe property, the toe key rather. I'm going to pass in cyan. Then yeah, we're good to go. So let's look back at the button. I can see the button is now looking nice. If you hover over it, it's blue. If you leave it in the default state, it is cyan and blue. So we're going to give it an icon, for users to be like, oh, this is a dashboard, So we're going to move in here, and there's a property called left icon or right icon. So left icon is going to display an icon on the left, and right icon displays an icon on the right. So we're going to say left icon because we want the icon to be at the left, and we're going to pass in a tag in it. And from this, it's from a library called Tabla Icons. And they have nice looking icons. So you remember it's in the package.json file, and I'll display the name of the library we're using right in the description, and also on the video as a caption. So we're gonna import an icon called icon device TV. Yeah, icon device TV. And we're gonna render that and save. If you head back here now, give it a few seconds to I think it's giving it a few seconds to compile. You can see now we now have a TV icon in our button. Let's look on the size. We're gonna give it a size of 20. Give it size and just pass 20. If we head back here, you can see the icon is now much more smaller. So yeah, that's it. We've built out the authentication screen. And next thing is to build out the unauthenticated screen. Okay, so it's going to be straightforward. The unauthenticated screen is a screen that the user is going to visit if they've not created an account. And in our case here, it's going to look exactly like this component. Exactly. The only difference is going to be the button. So we're going to just copy the code for the authenticated screen and paste it in the unauthenticated screen and just make a few customizations. So I'm just gonna let's see. Just gonna copy everything here, copy everything and go to unauthenticated screen, and I'm just gonna paste it. Remember, I have to change the name of the export. So I'm gonna say unauthenticated screen because I overrode them when copying, and unauthenticated screen, as you can see. So I'm gonna change a few things. So I'm gonna say hello to Rearranger. But the only difference is the button here is going to say get started. Okay, that's the major difference. The button this time is going to say get started, and we're going to render that. So go back to our index page, and we're going to render on authenticated screen instead. And if we save it, you can see now it says get started, but the one thing is looking odd, the icon. The icon is showing a TV icon, but we want to display the provider that we're going to use to sign in, okay, which is GitHub. So we could do that by changing the icon. So go back to unauthenticated screen, and in here, we're going to just say icon brand GitHub and save that. I'm going to clear my unused imports rather. And save it. If I head back here, you can see now it says get started. If I click on it, it does nothing, of course, because I've not given it any click events. So yeah, now we are done. And next up, we're going to implement authentication of these pages. And now that we've built out the authenticated and unauthenticated screens for our movie management app, let's delve into implementing authentication with the NextAuth library. So before we get going, we're going to go to our NextAuth file, and we're going to import the GitHub provider. So we're going to import GitHub. I'm going to capitalize that. GitHub provider. I'm going to import it from NextAuth /providers/GitHub and save it. And make sure that what we're using here, just to be sure. And good. So get back to our index page. So the NextAuth library gives us this use session React hook for us to check if someone is signed in on the front end. And this use session hook returns an object with a data value, and that data value is what we're going to actually use to check if a visitor is signed in or not. If they are signed in, we're going to render the authenticated screen. If they are not signed in, we're going to render the unauthenticated screen for them to then sign in. Okay, so let's do that. So first of all, we have to import the session provider into our root component or our root app. Remember, the root app is in the underscore app.js. So we're gonna move in here and we're gonna import session provider. Okay, and mind you, we've not imported it yet, so I'm just gonna move up here and say import just to be sure, leave it closed for now and say NextAuth React, and let's see if we can get that session provider from there. Session provider. Okay, that's it. We have our session provider, and we're gonna pass in a session property, and we're gonna move to page props here. Just a little configuration that NextAuth recommends. We're gonna say session and the structure page props. Okay, these are gonna pass in that session, and we're good to go. So it's recommended you close your server and restart it. Okay, so we restarted our server, and we're gonna reload our page so we can start using the use session hook. Okay, Still loading. Looks like it's still compiling. And great, we have everything going well for us. So let's write the logic that's going to check if a user or a visitor is signed in or not, or authenticated or not. So we're going to go to our index page, okay, in here. And right here, we're just going to say const, going to say const, if it's an empty object, is equals to use session, of course. We have use session here, which is imported from NextAuth_React. And we're going to get in. Remember we said the use session hook returns an object with a data value. So we're going to type in data here, okay? And we're going to quickly console. We're going to console log that data to see what it has for us. So head back to application and we're going to open my console. And you can see here it says null. So each returning null means we are not authenticated, which is obvious, right? Because we've not created an account. Okay, so it's null. So we're going to quickly use this value to render, to make a conditional render if we should display an authenticated or an unauthenticated screen. So let's see. We're going to say I'm going to clear this console. We're going to leave it open for now. I'm going to use it to debug and further explain what we are doing. Okay, so we're going to say, I'm going to clear this return. Okay, and I'm going to leave it open right here because it's going to be the default, the default thing to render if a user is not signed in. So we're going to say if, and we're going to move this into a variable called, assign this to a variable called session, right? So we're going to then say if session exists, so that means if there is a session, that means the user is signed in, right? We should return authenticated screen. Okay, that's literally it. So we're going to change this to session, okay, and save. So we head back here now. You can see we still have our unauthenticated screen being rendered. So let's quickly check to see what happens if it's true. So let's do something correctly here. We're just gonna create a variable here called session and pass it a value called maybe 1. Yeah, I'm gonna pass it a value called 1. And if you move in here, you can see now we are rendering our authenticated screen. That's why we have this dashboard button. So that means we are authenticated. But if that session is, let's say the session is null, you can see it renders our unauthenticated screen. Great, so that means it's working. This conditional logic is working. It's going to render our authenticated screen if there is a session, and it's going to render an unauthenticated screen if there is no session. Okay, so I'm just gonna delete that and then uncomment this. Great. Now it's time to implement, the ability to sign in or create an account. So how do we do that? We're going to go into the component screen of unauthenticated. Okay. And what we're going to do here, we're going to make it so that when the user clicks on the get started button, they are going to create an account. And again, we have a function from the use session hook called sign in. So let's bring that in. So I'm going to say const equals to use session from NextAuth. And this time I'm just going to say, I think it's sign in. Let's see. I think it should be sign in. Let's see. So yeah, we're supposed to, going to have a sign in function. Okay, the sign in function is not from the hook. Sorry for the mistake there. It's not from the hook. It's just a function itself. So I'm going to say import sign in from NextAuth React. And let's see if we can get that in. So I'm going to say sign in. Great. So that's it. So that's literally what we're going to do. I'm going to move into our button components, and we're going to say give it on click event and an anonymous function, okay? And it's going to say this, empty parenthesis, and in here, we're going to say sign in. So what it's going to do, when a user clicks on the button to sign in, it's going to, take them. Let's see what it does actually. So if you click on get started, can you see that you have this page that says sign in with GitHub? That's it. So let's quickly do something. Let's try something else. Let's go to our NextAuth. Let's create another provider. Okay, just a test. And let's bring a provider called let's say I think it's Google. Yeah. I'm gonna call this Google provider. And I'm just gonna, oops, I think I made a mistake. I should have just copied it because we need it for the first one. So I'm gonna duplicate it, and this one will be Google. And we're gonna say Google provider, and I'm gonna change that right here and call it Google provider, for instance. Let's assume we have this, okay? And if we head back here, let's go back and we're gonna reload the page, okay? And let's see what happens. Oops. Let's see what happens if we click on get started. So now, can you see that? We now have two sign-in options, sign in with Google or sign in with GitHub. Okay, so the sign-in function works. It gives you this nice looking UI that shows you a list of the authentication providers that you're going to use in your application. In our case here, we assume we have GitHub and we have Google provider. So this is just like to show you how the sign-in button works and how great NextJS is, NextAuth is rather. So I'm just gonna clear this, but just for testing purpose. And I'm gonna head back to our unauthenticated screen, and I have my sign in. Okay, so let me refresh this. You can see now we have sign in with GitHub. But let's say we don't want our user to have to look at this screen at all. We just want them to click on get started and to take them to the GitHub page to seek permissions to authenticate our application. So what do? In our sign-in function, we can also pass in the provider we want that user to sign in directly. So we can pass in a string, and you can see you have a list of the OAuth providers that NextAuth has. In our case, we are using GitHub. So I'm going to say GitHub. And I'm good to go. Now let's see if our implementation is going to work. So I'm going to click on get started. And can you see that we're taken to GitHub's page and we're asked to authorize the Rearranger clone. Now, where did you get this name from? If you remember, go to our OAuth application settings. We have this name called Rearranger clone. And yeah, we're good to go. You can see it's asking us that. If we had provided a logo here, it would have displayed that in here. So yeah, what it just needs is our email address and our profile information. And you see, it's authorizing will redirect us back to localhost 3000. So we're going to click on authorize premise learning, and I've been authorized, and it's going to take me back to the page. And as you can see, I've now been authenticated. And if you look back here, we now have this object that shows our expiry, the time our token expires. Now, before we move to layout, we want to have a quick fix with our authentication. If you see here, our session only returns an expired data, but it doesn't give us the data about our user. So we're going to quickly have a fix. And if we move to NextAuth, we're going to correct this callback. So we're just going to make this much more simpler by removing this part here, and clearing this is going to be a pure function. It's going to be a pure async function. And just say async. And if we save this now, I think we're now good to go. So let's quickly test if this is going to work. Okay. And let's do that. So I'm going to quickly invoke a sign out function here in our authenticator screen. So we can sign out and then sign in again and see if that is working. So say we have a signing function in NextAuth, we should also have a sign out function, right? So I'm just going to do that. So I'm going to say sign out. So I'm going to use that to check if we can also, we're going to log out and then authenticate ourselves again and see whether it's going to return our data. So I'm going to sign out here. As you can see, now let's sign in. And I've signed in. As you can see, we now have session and we have token. In our case here, we just need the session data. It expires and our user, which has our user and our name. So yeah, we are good to go. Now it's time to move into layouts. Layouts are a feature in NextJS that allow you to define a common consistent pattern for multiple pages in your NextJS application. And they help you to abstract away the repetitive parts of your UI and apply them consistently across your page. So how do we create a NextJS layout? It's pretty simple. You define a component that wraps your page components, and then you import it into your root application. And it has to be a file called layout.js. And once you do that, you wrap your root application, your root component with it, and you can see it apply in different cases. So let's implement that right away. So first things first, we're going to move into a component folder, and we're going to create a file called layouts.js. And of course, we're going to run the IRC command to, give us a layout. So I'm going to call this, I'm going to make it capital. I'm going to say layout. Okay, this is going to be our layout. And look at how to implement that. So first of all, our layout is going to consist of a very simple header for navigation, a very simple header, and a logo for our header, and then a margin or a container to box in every content in every other component. So let's see that in action. So after creating our layout, we also want to create our navigation components. We're going to create a navigation folder in our layout folder, in our components folder. I'm going to call this navigation, and create two files. I'm going to create header.js, and of course give it IRCE for now, and create another one called logo. That's going to be for our logo. Okay, so now we've done that, let's get straight into working on both of them. Okay, so for our logo, it's going to be pretty simple. It's going to be a text that actually just says rearranger. Okay, so I'm just going to return the text that says rearranger. So in this return here, I'm just going to say text from Mantine. Okay, that says rearranger. Okay. Yep. This is how our logo is going to look like, and we're gonna import it into our header components. Of course, the logo, the header component is supposed to also house the logo. The logo is gonna be a pretty interesting file, a pretty interesting one. So let's get into it. So our header is going to be wrapped by a container. Okay, then it'll be gray in color. It's gonna have our logo and a link and some links to and a menu, a link to search for movies and our menu. So let's do that. So header here, I'm gonna clear this out, and it's gonna say container from Mantine core. And next thing we want to do is have another container. Okay, let's quickly build this out. So the main container is gonna have a gray background. So I have this BG prop from Mantine UI. I'm gonna pass in gray to it. I'm gonna make it fluid. It's gonna occupy the whole page. Oops. Let's do that again. Fluid, gonna occupy the whole page. Then next we're gonna have This inner container is going to be for our navigation elements. Okay. So first of all, let's just quickly go to let's just build it out quickly. So in our container, I'm gonna have a group components, and in that group, I'm gonna have my newly created logo. I'm also gonna have my text that says search. Is gonna be it's gonna link to our I'm gonna link to our search page, and then lastly, we're gonna have a menu. So I'm gonna have a menu from Mantine code. Okay, and the menu is gonna have a target. The target is gonna be an avatar or an icon of my user, like a profile picture. So it's gonna be an avatar, which is a self-closing tag, and what else? We're gonna have yeah, that should be it, and it's gonna be a group. So it's gonna be a button on its own. So Mantine UI has this component called on start button. Okay, I'm gonna wrap my avatar with that for now, and it's gonna wrap avatar, and it's gonna have a text that's gonna show the user's name. So I'm gonna say text, and for now I'm just gonna say I'm gonna make this static for the meantime. An avatar for my SRC, nothing gonna be my SRC. Just gonna put in null. Put in null. Okay, so my avatar, I also have my text. I'm gonna show my name, and it's gonna be wrapped in a group, which is still going to be in our on start button. So a group's gonna wrap the avatar and the text, and the group's gonna have a spacing of 7. Okay, we're good to go. So next thing I'm gonna do right now, we're gonna Mantine has this component called menu.target. So you have your menu, right? But you also want something that's gonna trigger the menu. Okay, we are gonna have the menu target. We're gonna have the menu drop down. The menu drop down is gonna be the items under the menu, and the target is going to be the specific thing that we're gonna click that's going to trigger that drop down. Okay. So let's do that. So what's going to trigger the drop down is this on start button. So I'm just going to wrap it again. So I'm going to create a comment here called write a comment here called menu trigger, and I'm just going to say menu dot target. Okay, I'm going to wrap the on start button with menu dot target, and that's all we need for now. Okay, and once more for our avatar, I want to give it a radius of XL, and then a size of 20, as you can see here. Now, how our menu targets, you're going to also have the menu contents. That's going to be a drop down showing our links. Okay, so I'm going to have menu dot drop down. It's gonna have a list of our links. Okay, so we're gonna have menu. We also have menu item. It's gonna be each menu item. It's gonna be under the drop down. So have menu item, and we're gonna have, I think we're gonna have 3. One will be for watch list. One will be for account actions. Oh, sorry, 2 rather. A watch list and our account actions. They're gonna have a label at the top of account actions to to show what's that they can sign out of. And so we'll get things fast. We're going to look at the finished product, which is this here. And let's see, we're going to click on get started. I'm going to authorize this one. And yeah, as you can see here, we have this. This is what we're trying to build, this layout here that shows our logo, our search components, our search page, our search link, and this menu. Looking at this menu here, you can see this is the menu trigger, and this is the menu drop down, and these are the menu items. So we have these labels saying account actions, and we have logout, and we have watch list. So let's build that out. Let's build that out quickly. So in here we have just a David going to be just placeholder text. And many drop-down item, I'm gonna have watch list. Okay, they're going to be 2 watch list and logouts. Okay, now we're going to have here, and if we go back, we have them already, but logout is already in color. Okay, so we're going to go to our menu item that has logout. So I'm going to give it a color prop of red. Then also above the logout button, we have this label that says accounts actions. So it's going to be directly above logout and below watch list. So in between, let's say menu dot label. We're going to say accounts actions. Okay. So I think we've built out our drop down menu and we're good to go. So let's implement this layout. So how do you implement the layout? We've created our layout file and we've built out our layout is a navigation containing just a header. Okay. And we built our header components already. Now let's implement our layouts. So to implement your layout, after creating your layout file, you go to your root component, which is your underscore app.js, and you simply wrap your root components with your newly created layout. As you can see, I've imported mine from components/layout. I'm going to save it. And that's it. So let's see if it's going to work. So we're going to move back here now. And you can see it's occupying the whole page, right? We are seeing layout alone for now. And that's a good reason because we've not imported our navigation components, our header into our layout. I'm going to go into layout here and I'm going to redefine my my layout file. Okay, so to do that, I'm just going to clear this out and import our newly created components. Okay, so I'm going to return something here, and I'm going to say it should return give it a fragment, React fragments, and I would say our newly created not from Mantine core, from our components. So our header here, which is going to be a self-closing tag. Okay, and what else? I would also need to display I want to display a how do I call it? I want to give it some pattern to the pages. Okay, so it's gonna be a main, and in it, I'm gonna say container, and in container, I'm gonna pass in the children. So remember we're wrapping our components with layouts. That means our root component is gonna be the child of layouts. So here we have about layouts. I'm just gonna pass in children from here. If I'm familiar with React, this is how to define children components. And in here, I'm just gonna say children. Okay, and our container here, we're good to go. So if you head back here, you can see it's having some issues which we're going to fix in HFA. So we have layouts, and let's see exactly what the problem is. It's having a problem from the text components. So it looks like we're using a text that we did not import, which is going to be in the header, right? Yep, our text is not imported from Mantine core. We save that now. You can see our layout is now displaying our navigation menu, but we aren't done styling it just yet, which is what we're going to fix. Okay, so let's get back into designing our layout. So our layout is just going to be our header and this main content, and they're going to have some style. So this container is going to have some style for the pattern, and it's just going to have a pattern top of 1 rem and a padding bottom of 1 rem too, as you can see. And that's that for our layout. So it's time to to build out the navigation. So we're gonna go back to our header file. Let's start let's start working on that straight away. Let's see. So we have our container and we have group. And I want to give the inner container some pattern. Okay, I'm gonna give it a pattern of that's top and bottom. I'm going to give it value of 20. If we head back here, you can see now our container now has getting to look similar to our finished product right here. And you can see now this looks like similar to what we have here, right? So now we want to space these navigation items. So we're going to go to group, which is what we are using to display elements horizontally. And we're going to say group and give it a position of apart. And if we save and go back, you can see this now. It's now looking much more similar. We have rearranger here and search, and we have Joseph David, which is very similar to what we are having right here. Okay, so what else? What we need to display the picture, right? Remember, we are having this placeholder file. Remember, our authenticated user, his name is not Joseph David, it's primary study in this case. So we want to make this dynamic. But let's make sure we are done designing our header. First of all, let's see. So from menu, we have a menu. We're going to define the menu and customize the menu a bit, give it some width and whatnot. So go to menu and I'm going to give it a width of 200. Like if you can skip this part for the styling and customize according to what you want, and we'll get straight to writing actual code soon. So bottom, I'm gonna give it a position of bottom end, and give it a transition props, or a transition rather. Give it a transition of pop top right, just some miscellaneous animation and properties. So I'm going to give it an unclose. Now unclose prop and an open property. So we're going to define that. So we're going to define some React states here that will be necessary for our animation. So up in header, okay, we are going to say up in header, we're going to say let's see, we're going to have states, use states from React, and they're going to have a value of false because the menu is going to be false at first. It's not going to be open, immediately. We're going to have a state called user menu opened, and then set user menu opened. Okay, so go back to our onClose, and I'm going to give it an anonymous function, of course, and in here that's when we're gonna set user menu opened to false, like when it's being closed, right? User menu opened false, and for unopen, you can guess that is going to be set user menu opened true. Oh, I think I made a mistake here. It's supposed to be set user menu opened. So yeah, good to go with that. And what else are we supposed to fill in? Now we're going to use our header file now to define certain functions for us. Okay, so let's get started with that. So we have, I'm still, okay, we've not fixed avatar yet. So avatar and text is going to come from our user, okay? And where do we get that from? We're going to get it from our session, right? So we're going to call a session in here. But remember, we have our layouts here. And for our layout, it's going to be dynamic. If there's a session, that's when, when a user is logged in, that's when they can have access to this navigation. But if they are not supposed to have access to that. So, okay, so we're gonna pass in the session. We're gonna check our session in our layout to know if a user is signed in or not, to do like a conditional render of our layout. And remember, since we'll be passing in that we're using session in here, we're going to also pass it to our header components to populate with the data. So we're going to be expecting a user component from right here. So we're going to pass in user, okay? And if I come back here, let me go to our console.log statements. we are getting session, okay, and session is giving us expired and a user object again. So we need this user object, okay. So we're gonna pass it in from the parent component, which is going to be here. We're going to say const. I'm gonna import use session, and I'm gonna have data. I'm gonna call it session, okay. I'm going to return this header, right? I remember header is now expecting a user. I have a session, I'm gonna have session, an optional chaining, and as you can see now we have user, okay? Now the user is what we're getting in here. Great. So see that expires, as you can see, and there's user. So we are now passing the user to our header object, to our header component. Now if we go to our header, and we're getting this user right here, okay? So now remember, user also has the name and the email, okay, and their image. So we need the name and the image properties, the values from there. So we're gonna pass it in here. So remember, we have it here as user. So we're gonna go to avatar, and src, our source, we're gonna change it from null to user dot image, and for the text or the name there, it's gonna be user dot name. So to be sure this works, let's visit our header, and we're having some strange behavior in here, which are going to check or troubleshoot rather. So we're getting user, and we're passing user.image and user.name. And from let's close this. Our layout, let's see, user is equal to session.user, and passing it into our header. So what we could do, we could just quickly log. Let's quickly log user to be sure we are getting the right thing. To be sure we are, we're getting the right thing. So header is returning undefined. So what could be the matter? Let's troubleshoot that. What could be the matter? What could be the matter? So layout user is equals to session.user. Let's pass in session first to see what it's going to show us. And yeah, we're getting session. That's okay. So I've seen the issue. It's supposed to be session dot session. Oh no, not here. Sorry. Yeah, session dot user. So you can see now it's now working. We have our name and the email and the image. Okay. Yeah, we fixed that already. So we can head back to our header and keep on styling. I can clear this console.log statement. Let's use any other thing to correct. Let's see, is there anything? For now, no, looks like this is all we have to do. Okay, I think we have one more thing left, the logout function. So we're gonna give it an on-click event, and it's gonna be an anonymous function. I'm gonna have sign out, okay? And sign out has some optional properties. So we could just give it an object in here and then give it a redirect of false. So this time if we sign out, our page wouldn't have to reload. So let's test everything out to make sure it's working. So I'm gonna click here and click on logouts. And yeah, we've been logged out. But remember, we've not implemented the function where our layout only displays the navigation if the user is signed in. So we're not supposed to see this anymore. So we're gonna fix that. So we're gonna go to layout, and now we have session. We're gonna have our conditional statement. Okay. So we're gonna render our layout conditionally. So we're gonna say if there's a session. Okay, there's a session. It's going to render this. I'm gonna close this right here. I'm going to say else. We should render something else. I'm going to just render this container that we can see here. I'm just gonna return this. If I save it, I'll head back. You can see right now the navigation is clear. So let's test our layout. Click on get started and you can try to authenticate us. And if you sign in, as you can see now, we now have our navigation. So yeah, we've come to a close in this section of the tutorial on layout. So for a recap, how do we create or how do we implement layout in NextJS? You create a layout component and you define, you create a layout component as you can see here, and you define how your layout should look like. After defining it, you then wrap your root components here in your underscore app.js file with the layout component. And in our case here, we did that and we passed in our session, and we use the session to render a header, and which is a core part of our application that displays the navigation links to our application. And we also had a conditional render that renders this layout if the user is authenticated. If it isn't, it doesn't render this and simply renders a padded container. In the next video, we'll be looking at how to set up Prisma, which is going to be important and integral to our watchlist functionality. See you in the next one.